Okay. This is Jenna Barker interviewing John Keays from Gansevoort, New York. The date is January 8th, 2005, and the time is 4 o'clock. Okay. Tell me about your life prior to the war.
Prior to the war, I was born in Hudson Falls, spent all my time, up until the teen years in Hudson Falls, just a normal, going to school in Hudson Falls, and I did some sports in high school, baseball mostly, and this and that. And, my biggest activities was dancing. At that time, everybody danced. They had high school dances once a week and all this stuff, and I was involved in most of the high school activities around there and everything. And, just a normal teenager's life, and worked on my days off. And I had an aunt and uncle that run a grocery store, and I worked for them on Saturdays, running errands and all that. That's how I got my first car. I worked for my uncle, and he had an old car in the backyard, and that was my pay for working all summer. I got the car, and I was there's only two of us fellows at school at that time that had automobiles, and I was one of them. And then, right up until we got drafted in the Army, that was it. That was about it. Just the normal.
So, did you graduate before you were drafted?
Yeah.
How long were you out of school before that happened?
Pardon me?
How long were you out of school before that happened?
Maybe 42, a couple of years, a year and a half.
So what did you do? Did you work?
Yeah, I worked construction work. I worked at the Union Bag in Hudson Falls for a while, and then that was, let's see, that was after I got out of service. I worked. No, that's it. I worked for the Union Bag just for a while. Yeah.
Okay, well, where were you on December 7th, 1941?
December 7th. I was local. I was around here, and they had a dance up to Brendan's roller rink, and I was on the way up there when I heard the news about it. He said about the Pearl Harbor. Yep. I remember that because, well, yeah, that's about the story for that. I told you. Because the week before we had a little trouble, another fellow and I, and when I got up there, they wouldn't let me in. So I gave them I just sent word into the dance, and I heard on the way up that Pearl Harbor had been bombed and everything. Yep.
What was your reaction?
Pardon me?
What was your reaction?
Well, I just figured that it was going to be, it meant military service later on, and everybody was shocked and upset about it, and it was something that never was expected, and it just that. Well, I kind of realized that it eventually lead to being in the service and all that. I didn't plan on volunteering,
Mm-hmm.
and well, I figured eventually to get to be drafted, I did think about it. Enlisting, but I didn't think that would set too good with the with mother.
Mm-hmm.
She probably wouldn't have bothered. She wouldn't have been happy with it and everything. So I just figured to let history take its course and see what happened. That's all. Yeah.
Was anyone from the area drafted along with you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had quite a contingent, but I don't remember any of them. There was boys from Whitehall and Glens Falls, and there was a busload of us. Yeah. Yeah. We went to, they took us down to Albany, and physical examination and all that, and then they swore us all in. I think it was at that day too, yeah. And we went home, and they set the date when we were going.
So where did you have to report for basic training?
I went to Fort Dix for New Jersey, and we were there for maybe, I don't think it was a month. We were there, we spent a few days, a couple weeks there and everything, and then they assigned us to I went from there to St. Louis, Missouri. For basic training, more or less, you know. And then after basics, and they interviewed us for different, occupations, then they decided that I'd go to heavy equipment school in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Then I ended up in Fort Belvoir, Virginia for whatever time it took to finish that training down there. There was operator school and operate machinery and everything. And I think that was the other, then we went from there for overseas. We went to,
So where did you land first when you went overseas?
Gurk, Scotland. We went over on the Queen Elizabeth, the ship. We landed in Gurk, Scotland, and then they moved us from there down to Chelmsford, England.
How long were you in England?
In England, we spent a year and a half, I think it was. We built an air base in Chelmsford, England, and we were there about a year and a half on building the base. And then after we finished the base, they kept us there for, we used to jump around repairing runways and airports here and there around the East Coast of England,
Mm-hmm.
And one of our jobs was like if an airplane landed off the airport or something, and repairable, they used to send a bunch of us out and we'd prepare a temporary runway. They'd get the airplane fixed and fly it off, and we'd pick up all the steel for the runway and take it back. Just temporary duty like that, around the country.
So how long did each job take?
Pardon me?
How long did it take to build the runways?
One of them runways, that was maybe a week at the most. If the airplanes they went down, it was wrinkled up too much, they just dismantled it. But then even that were repairable and figured to be flyable, and then we made a temporary runway for them to go. Yeah.
So what was your unit, your rank?
Pardon me?
What was your unit that you were in?
It was just a typical construction company. Everybody had their duties, truck drivers, mechanics, and all that. It was more or less a construction setup. Yeah.
So did you travel to different countries? Did you?
Yeah. Well, after they we went on to France, and then we went on from there to Germany. We spent some time in Germany. We didn't spend much time in France. Just passing through more or less, you know. And then down in Germany, we settled on an air base, abandoned air base, and we rebuilt hangars, and we refurbished the runways and all that, you know, rebuilt the runways so they could use it. And then that took on more of the military. We had more military formations and things like that after that, you know. There wasn't that much work to keep us busy, I guess, so that was...
So Germany was where you spent most of your time there?
Pardon me?
You spent most of the time in Germany?
We spent quite a bit of time in Germany, yeah, but most of the time was spent in England doing that. When we got to Germany, we had a little more free time. We got like a day and a night and a day a week off, you know. Towards the end of our stay in England, we got some free time. We go to London for a night and a day a week and all that. But the first part of when I first started construction, we worked every day on the base, you know, and all that. But, yeah, I got to see a little bit of London, got to see a little bit of, not much of Paris. I was in town in Paris a couple different times, but not much of it. But then we were stationed out just outside of Munich, so we got to see Munich quite a bit there when we were down there.
Do you have any memorable experiences?
Huh?
Do you have any memorable experiences?
No, not really. No, I don't think it was just going to town and looking the town over and doing this and that. But nothing really that stands out in my memory now. Yeah.
Did you miss home? Did you miss home?
Pardon me?
Did you miss home here?
Oh yeah, sure you did. Yeah, everybody did. Yeah, we got. We got after the first session with working all the time, we began to get a little free time, and so we wrote letters back and forth and everything. But that was before the cell phones and all that. They can call back and forth now, but we could. Ours were mail, and it wasn't as speedy either. I mean, you write a letter, and then you get a letter back in maybe a month that they had got your letter, and a return letter to get there. But you were busy enough so it didn't bother you an awful lot, you know.
While you were in Europe, did you ever meet anybody that you knew from the States?
Oh yeah, I had a cousin from Corinth that he was a lieutenant. He was in the 82nd Airborne, and he was stationed down in southern England. And then I met a couple kid by the name of Pete Gilbert, and he was from Hudson Falls. I met him at one of the bases. He used to go around and. When we was on these other bases, you go to the enlisted man's club, you know, and they had rosters in there or something. You look them over, and yeah, I met a couple people. I was walking down, I was in London one day, walking across the road, or walking down the street, and this guy was ahead of me, and I looked at him, and I said, I know that guy. And I walked up to him and knocked him, and it was Ray Avery. You remember Hudson Falls used to play for the Green Jackets? Yeah, and I recognized him from behind. I don't know how it ever happened. But I just walked up and touched him on his shoulder. He turned around and I said, Ray Avery. Yeah. I met him after the war and he remembered it. Yeah.
You said that you watched the bombers take off on D-Day.
Yeah.
Was that in England?
Yeah, I'm thinking that was quite a day. Yeah. He had started before dawn, you know, and then you could hear them coming up, and you knew something was up. But the talk before that was, you know, it's eminent. Things are building up and all this, and they were, all that stuff. But it sat there and watched them go hour after hour. Just we were on a heavy base at that time, and I got up to chow, for breakfast. Coming back from there, look out on there, and there was lined up. There was 20 or 30 lined up in a row, all ready to go, and take off and go, and bend them and come back. Yeah.
Were they B-17s?
Most of them were B-17s, and the base we were on, yeah, yeah. There was a couple bases not too far away that had Liberators and 24s on them, and and there were fighter bases all over the place, It was quite a day.
Did you ever have to work on one of the B-17s?
No, the base we built, that was a medium bomber base, and they brought the airplanes in and they practiced. Well, the first day that they were really operational, they just went across the ocean, just over into France, just a short thing. And it happened that they were marauders, and they were susceptible to hydraulic problems. And I can remember I had to run a crane. It was on the back of a tractor, and they brought 2 or 3 of them in on their belly. And I went out with a crane and picked them up and moved them farther away from the runway, so the next airplane, if they had to land, they'd have room to do it. Yeah. It was pretty busy right around that time.
So can you describe like a typical day of work on the airbase?
Well, typical day of work, just mostly after chow you had you assembled in the streets, and they came along in the trucks and took you out on the base, distributed around your different spots, your different machines, and that from then until noon it was just work the machine, and they picked you up at noon and took you in for chow and right back out again, and then you worked till quitting time, more or less, and back in and clean up and go to chow again. And then by that time you were pretty well tired out. You went back to bed. They had movies, a couple times a week and things like that. And now and then they'd have a show, and things like that. But you were pretty busy, and just a work day, regular work day, yeah.
How was the food?
Food was good. They always had a lot of food. That was no complaint as far as that goes. They had, it was kind of routine, but then every now and then they'd have a special meal of some kind, No, the food, you couldn't kick on the food. It was always good. The only combat or anything we saw was shortly, within a day or two after we got to Chelmsford, England, where we were going to build a base. They had an air raid that night. The Germans were still trying, and they had a radio station at Axis Annie. It was the girl. I think her name was Axis Annie, and she welcomed us. She welcomed us to England and all that. That they just to let us know that they knew, the Germans knew we were in town.
Mm-hmm.
They named the name of the outfit and all that. Yeah, but they, I don't know. There was a couple bombs actually landed in the area, but most of them were, everybody ran for cover, of course. It was at night. Everybody ran for cover someplace, but it didn't amount an awful lot, really.
Do you remember where you were on VE Day?
It was right there in England. Yeah. That was just started out as a normal day, and sometime during the afternoon, I guess, or what, we got a notice that that it was over, and everybody's happy. Everybody's trying to go to town that night and have some party, but I don't know. Yeah.
So you were happy about that?
Oh, yes, yeah. All you could see was going home. But then it turned out it didn't happen that way. It was another, oh, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, or more than that, before we got to come home.
So what did you do in all that time?
Well, that was the time we went from France to Germany and worked in Germany and everything, and then finally our turn came to come home, so they...
What did you do in Germany? Did you work on bridges or anything?
No, just the airports.
Just the airports, that was
Yeah,
all you did?
yeah. We didn't get into, they took a couple of companies and moved them out to repair some of the roads, but I wasn't involved in that. I was out on we rebuilt a big hangar, did some welding and, fabricating and repaired the hangar and some of the runways at the airport. But part of the company went out. At that time, all the big bridges on the highway had been bombed and everything, and they sent some of the guys out to help repair them, but I wasn't involved in that, no.
So you never worked on airplanes or anything?
Pardon me?
You never worked on the airplanes or anything?
No, I didn't get into that. That was all separate division, that was all they had there. Yeah, no, I didn't get that. I did get to ride in a couple, the bombers, yeah, they used to have practice missions. Well, this was when we was in England. And after, let's say, after we got the base done and everything, we moved around in all these other bases. And one day I happened to be in operations. And we're talking to a guy, and they send these guys out to practice missions. So I was talking to the guy, and he says, you want to go for a ride? And I said, yeah. So he said, well, I'm scheduled for such and such, but I want to go to town. So he says, you sign on the airplane as whatever his name was. He said, you just sign my name, and you can go for a ride. So but then I got thinking, if the bomber ever went down and everything, they say he got killed, but nobody knows it was me. And so, and I did it a few times. I spent, maybe 3 or 4 times, 2 or 3 times, filling in for some guy and riding around. They had a up on the east coast of England, partway up in the channel, they had a sunken barge. Part of it was visible, and they used that as a aiming point for practice bombing. And they used to go up there and drop practice bombs on it, right around. I saw a little bit of the East Coast, but that didn't happen an awful lot, I imagine they frowned on it. If they knew about it, I couldn't have gone. But but it was something to do. A day off. I didn't have any money to go to London every time I had a day off, so I did that.
Did you know anything about the concentration camps?
No, I didn't get in. Didn't see any of that area or nothing. No, I didn't. I heard about it, I guess, after, but no, I didn't know.
Right, well, when you left the service, when they let you go home finally, how did you get back in the U.S.?
We went to Italy. No, I guess where we loaded. It was in the Mediterranean on Liberty ships. Mm-hmm. They took us, loaded a Liberty ship, and shipped us back that way. Yeah. that was an experience too, because that, I can remember them roosters. Oh, 2 or 3 days and nothing but boom, boom. That was quite a ride too. 90% of the people were sick and things like that, you know. They're packed in there like animals, you know, or 2 or 3 tiers of hammocks, and that's how you slept and all that. But I slept I'd go outdoors and sleep on after dark I'd go out and sleep on the deck. And that was the best way.
Where did you come back to?
Pardon me?
Where did you come back to?
We come back to New York, into New York, yeah. And they took us from there back to Fort Dix, and then they discharged us from Fort Dix, yeah. I was back in the States a week, and I had a discharge, yeah, yeah. And caught a train from there to New York. No, I caught a train from there to New York, from New York to Albany, and then from Albany I hitchhiked home. Yeah, they turned me loose. And they didn't provide your transportation home, but
Did you keep in contact with anybody you met during the war?
pardon?
Did you keep in contact with anyone you met?
Oh, no, not really. There's a guy in Warrensburg. I met him once after that. I happened to be in the diner and he came in. But as far as well, I went to Kentucky one time, and a fellow that we went out there for a convention, and the fellow that lived in Tennessee wasn't too far away. I called up, but he died. He had died, and I talked to his son and all that. But no, I didn't. No. I was thinking there was somebody else but I can't remember about it, who it was now. No.
What have you been doing since the war? Just working, or?
Just basic construction work, and stayed right at it all my life till I retired a few years back. Yeah. I learned the trade in the service, and I stayed at it when I got out. Yeah.
So what kind of impact did the war have on your life?
Oh, I would say it affected it an awful lot. I didn't lose any, too many friends, real friends during it, and life just went on almost the same as it was when I was in the service. Get up, go to work. Yeah, no, it didn't have an awful big impact on it. Yeah.
Well, why do you think it's important for today's youth to know about World War II?
Well, everybody should know the history of things like that, and especially how it started, and all that stuff. But it's a shame because like every time the subject comes up, and they talk about Pearl Harbor, and it's of course that's a different situation, but 90 or 75% of the people in Japan don't know anything about Pearl Harbor and all that. You keep these things, pass it down for generations to know about different people's different reactions and things like this. And I noticed more lately than a few years back that the veterans and all that are more active now, spreading the news around about, keeping alive the memories of the Second World War and things like that. And I think it's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah. Lost a lot of young men had that during the war, you know, and if they can do anything to prevent another occurrence like that, it'd be good, yeah.
Okay, well, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Pardon me?
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Just one more question, actually. Another question about your equipment
The equipment,
that you used when you were overseas,
yeah.
like the Caterpillars or anything.
Oh,
Did you use
well,
stuff
we
like
always
that?
had the best equipment. I mean, the construction company, construction equipment, you know, they took the best for that operation, and it was always good. We always had good trained mechanics and everybody to keep everything going and all that. We lacked, every now and then, we lack a special piece of equipment maybe or nothing, but we always made up for it, you know. You might have to have some lifting to do or something. You didn't have a crane available, but you always you know, made do, whatever it was. But no, the equipment was it was good. It had a good supply mostly, but every now, like I say, every now and then we didn't lack for good equipment. We had all the trucks and everything we needed and all that, you know, yeah.
Did you drive the trucks?
Now and then, if the occasion come up, you know, you had to do it, you did it. But mostly it was moving dirt, you know, dirt moving equipment, bulldozers and scrapers and things like that to make the runways and all that, but, yeah.
Well, what was your main job that you did, the main thing
The main thing,
that
I
you
was an
did?
equipment operator.
You didn't have like a specific,
Pardon me?
did you have like a specific piece of equipment that you used yourself or anything?
Well, bulldozer, yeah, mostly a bulldozer or something. And after a while, I got to use some of the other digging equipment, you know, excavators and like that. But most of the time was spent with scrapers and bulldozers. Yeah.
Okay, well, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, I guess we're...
Oh, no, it's just that I didn't mind it myself. You know, a lot of people talk about how they lost 3 years of their life, something like this. I mean, spent over there, you know. But no, I won't say it was enjoyable, but it wasn't devastating. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was a good experience. You saw some other countries and other ways of life, you know, and things like that.
So you don't regret it?
If I had to fight, like I say, I always said if I had to fight all my wars like that, I wouldn't mind doing it again, you know? Except I never, except for a few incidents, we didn't get near any of the fighting, you know, and the bombing and things like that. But, no.
Were you ever scared while you were over there?
Pardon me?
Were you ever scared while you were over there?
Scared? Well, yeah, you see, that night was a little bit scared, well, concerned, more or less. I was scared. Yeah, there was a few times that, after we got out of the continent, there was everything had quieted down and all that. But no, I except for maybe that one time, was actually concerned about what was going on. You know, yeah.
So you were never nearby, like where a battle was going on? There was any combat ever close to you?
No, there was never any real combat. No. things, and we did spend a time in Buzz Bomb Alley, where the Germans were sending the buzz bombs over, you know, to bomb in London and all that. And the first few days, you'd hear them coming, and you'd find an alert, you'd get out of the tent and run to a hole. But then after that, you just lay there. If you kept hearing the noise, that meant it was running by you. If you heard the noise and then all of a sudden it stopped, then you ran for a ditch or something. But no, that wasn't really scary. It was like that. You're concerned, but not scared, really, you know.
Did you ever meet any Germans?
I ever meet any Germans? Well, yeah, we had a few of them that you'd get work parties, you know, and come out, and you'd have maybe one guy, a translator, that worked with, but actually you didn't mingle with him too much, you know. If you had a job and you sent you out 2 or 3 guys, you talk to the interpreter, and he'd tell them what to do, and then you just supervise the work, you know, like cleaning up, mostly cleaning up around and things like that. Yeah. But not really come in contact with them, no. Is that about it?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm sorry, I can't, about combat, you know, we just didn't get near anything in combat, really.
Oh.
Yeah, but,
You were still a very important part of it.
yeah.
Did you always feel that way?
Huh?
Did you always feel like you were an important part of the war?
Well, I did my share. I did all those asked of me, you know what I mean? I figured, I figured I contributed to something, some part of it anyway, and it was a good experience. It was a good experience, you know. You learned a lot about life and things like that. And you didn't get hurt. Didn't get hurt, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
You come back the way I went out. No. Yeah. And what the heck, 2.5, 3 years at that time in life, you know, it just passed over real fast, and right back to living again. Yeah.